Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I have a great book haul to share with you today. 19 books that I received either as gifts for the holidays or received gift cards, which I then, of course, turned into more books. So these are some of the things that you'll see that I'll be talking about on the channel in the next few months. So if you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe. I have some other fun things planned in the near future. I'm going to do a video on the top 10 book series that I hope to read this year. And then I'm going to announce a read-along at the end of the month. A classic science fiction tale that I know a lot of you would enjoy. We have a very small channel here, but maybe 2 or 3 of you will want to join me on that endeavor. But let's go ahead and get started with the books. I have them organized in 3 different stacks here that are kind of by genre. So the first stack I have here is 6 books that are nonfiction and historical fiction. I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I do love historical fiction. And these are some of the books that just interest me. This first one was from my book club's book exchange, and this is a nonfiction book called Longitude, and story of the man who figured out how to calculate longitude. And when my friend was, explaining this book, really sold it to me. It sounded very, very interesting. It's not a very long book. Looks like it's a pretty quick read, but it just sounded like a really interesting read. So I'm looking forward to reading Longitude by Dava Sobel. The next nonfiction book is by Mary Karr, and this is called The Art of the Memoir. I love reading about artists and their craft, whether they be visual artists, writers, actors, musicians, dancers. I just find the topic fascinating. And Mary Karr is the author of several memoirs herself, but also coached and instructed several other authors in writing their own memoirs. So I'm very interested in reading this book by her. And my last nonfiction selection is by perhaps my favorite writer of historical fiction, of historical nonfiction, and that's Erik Larson. And this is Dead Wake, and this is about the Lusitania. What I really like about Erik Larson as an author is he makes nonfiction read like a compelling novel. He's just so talented at bringing events to life and making them so riveting. So I'm very, very much looking forward to reading Dead Wake. Okay, on to the historical fiction. This next one is a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Michael Shara called The Killer Angels. And this is considered by many one of the greatest works of historical fiction of the American Civil War era. And it's a retelling of the Battle of Gettysburg, and I'm very much interested in reading this. I've heard a lot of people say such great things about it, so I can't wait to read this one. The next one is a classic, but a classic you may not know because this is a classic from China. The author is Li Ju Chen, and this is Flowers in the Mirror. And this is a work of the 19th century. I do try to read classics, but not just necessarily the ones that are of American or European origin. I try to branch out as much as I can. So I'm very much looking forward to this. This is set during the Wu Dynasty in the 7th century China and just looks very different from anything that I've read. So I'm very much interested in reading Flowers in the Mirror. All right, the next one might be the most gorgeous book that I received as a gift. And this is a classic of historical fiction, and this is James Clavell's Shogun. And this is a gorgeous edition, which is somewhat new. Leather bound. This is just, it's pretty heavy too. It's very solidly made, about 1,300 pages. I've really grown to love epic length historical fiction. Probably led the way by Ken Follett and Pillars of the Earth, but I became more interested in reading more of those longer length historical fiction novels, and Shogun is one that just appeared on a lot of lists. Brian Lee Durfee talked about it on his channel, and I'm just really interested in reading this, so I can't wait to dig into Shogun by James Clavell. All right, my next stack is some books from my favorite authors. So this gives you a good idea of some of the things that I really enjoy. One author I haven't talked about in the last year because I haven't read him for, I think, 2 or 3 years is Dennis Lehane. Dennis Lehane, along with Michael Connelly, is probably my top 2 crime fiction authors. And although I don't read that genre quite as much as I used to, anytime that, Connelly or Lehane, I see one of their books on the shelf, I pretty much pick it up. So I picked up 3 by Dennis Lehane that I have not read. The first one's called Coronado, and this is a collection of short stories. So we'll see how I enjoy that one. The next two are books in his Kenzie and Gennaro series. He wrote 6 books following those detectives in Boston. And I have to admit that I've read them totally out of order. I have read the other 4, and these are the last 2 that I'm going to read, but they're number 3 and number 6 in chronological order. So this is the 3rd one, and this one's called Sacred. And the 6th one, which I believe is the last one that he's written thus far, is Moonlight Mile, which looks like it's a follow-up to Gone Baby Gone, which is one of my favorites of his. LEHANE is a fantastic writer of crime fiction. If you've not read him and you like that genre, pick up one of his novels. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, the next author that I really love, I did not read any in 2021. I first discovered this author in 2020, and I read 10 books by him, took off last year, and I'm ready to dive into more of his work, and that's Haruki Murakami. So I picked up this one. It's called A Wild Sheep Chase, and the synopsis is just one of the most bizarre things I've ever read, and it seems like only a tale that Murakami or maybe Stephen King could possibly give justice to. And it just sounds very, very interesting. One of those magical realism, strange tales that only Murakami could dream up. So I'm very much interested in reading this one. And then I picked up another gorgeous book. Saw this on the shelf in the bookstore and immediately grabbed it. And this is considered by many Murakami's magnum opus. And this is 1Q84. And this is a big boy. And besides the ties to Orwell in 1984, I don't know much about this, and I'm doing that by design. I find a lot of times, for me, if I know too much about a book going in, it kind of ruins some of the clever things that the author does. So I'm kind of going in blind with this one. This is another hefty book that'll take a while, but I'm really looking forward to delving into some Murakami and 1Q84. All right, 2 by my favorite author, and that's Stephen King. Now, when Stephen King puts out a novel, I pretty much pre-order it or buy it right away from a store, but I let kind of slide by a couple of his short story collections, so I'm trying to get caught up. So the first short story collection that I have not read by him that I just received as a gift is The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. So this is a collection of short stories I'm looking forward to reading. And then the other one is If It Bleeds. And If It Bleeds looks like it's 4 novellas, so some longer short fiction by King. But definitely looking forward to reading more of him. I'm almost through everything that King has written, so that will get me 2 books closer. All right, on to my favorite genre, which is the fantasy genre. I have a big stack here. Let's start with where I started. Of all these 19 books that I received, where did I start? What was the first new one that I read? It was Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. Abercrombie's one of my favorite new authors. I just love his voice. I love his writing style. And this one is the one that I had seen a lot of reviewers say that it was the bad one, and I was still interested in it. And I can see why they didn't like it, because it felt more like a Western than a fantasy tale. But this was my last book I read in 2021. This was book number 106, which is the most I've ever read in a year. And I really enjoyed Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. The next one is another one by Abercrombie, and it'll be my first book of 2022, and that is Sharp Ends. You can see the bookmark in there. I'm probably going to finish it tonight. So this will be done by the time I post this video. And this is a collection of short stories set in the world of the First Law, and I'm really enjoying it. You have some older characters from previous books, you know, getting some more pages with them, and then some new characters as well. And it's just proven to be very, very fun to read, and just to be in that world, I've really enjoyed it. All right, up next, if you watched my Red Fury Book Awards, you know that the big winner of the night was Robin Hobb. So of course, of these 19 books, there's going to be some Robin Hobb. So last year I read the Farseer trilogy and the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which means it's time to read the Tawny Man trilogy. So I got all 3 of these books. I love these UK covers. So this is the first book, Fool's Errand. The second book is The Golden Fool. And the third book is Fool's Fate. So I'm very much looking forward to reading more Robin Hobb, one of my favorite new authors, one of my favorite authors, period. All right, and on to the very last book. Again, this is another one that's just a gorgeous, gorgeous edition. You may not know from these videos, because I've only been making them for about a year or so, that I took a big break from reading the fantasy genre. From probably 2000 to 2019, I might have read 4 or 5 new fantasy series. Well, I'm making up for lost time, as it's my favorite genre currently, and I'm trying to read a lot of the new voices that have come in, but also catch up with some of the classic voices that I've missed. One of those classic voices is Ursula K. Le Guin, and I picked up this gorgeous illustrated omnibus of all of the books of Earthsea. And I cannot wait to get into this. This is hefty. Can't wait to get into this. This is the 6 novels plus several short stories and essays around the Earthsea books. Well, that was my 19-book haul. If you've read any of these, I'd love for you to comment below whether you like them or not. Maybe if you liked it a lot, I'll move it closer to the top of my TBR. As it is, it's going to be a nice shelf in the room of all of these great books that I can't wait to read. These will serve as some of the things you'll see me talk about in the next few months on the channel. If you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Goodreads for more content. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.